Reading comes from the book of Matthew, chapter 18, verses 15 through 20. If another member of the church sins against you, go and point out the fault when the two of you are alone. If the member listens to you, you have regained that one. But if you are not listened to, take one or two others along with you, so that every word may be confirmed by the evidence of two or three witnesses. If the member refuses to listen to them, tell it to the church. And if the offender refuses to listen even to the church, let such a one be to you as a Gentile and a tax collector. Truly I tell you, whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. Again, truly I tell you, if two of you agree on earth about anything you ask, it will be done for you by my Father in heaven. For where two or three are gathered in my name, I am there among them. There are about 350,000 worshiping congregations in the United States alone. This is Christian churches and organizations that worship together on Sunday mornings or any time of the week. Do you imagine if all 350,000 somehow could come together, not let alone all the other religions and sects and groups out there, if these 350,000 could come together and work together towards the good of society and humankind? It would be wonderful, but it's really just a pipe dream. I mean, think about it. There are the Catholics, they pray to Mary, and it's just weird, I can't deal with that, so there's no way I could work with them. Presbyterians, they're Calvinists. They believe in this weird thing called predestination. They think that everything is already settled before it happens, and no, that's just weird. Lutherans, by faith alone. Really. Throw out the words, don't worry about anything. I'm saved by my faith. Everything's okay. I'm not into that theology. Wesleyans, oh yes, we are becoming sanctified and holy. I'm just going to keep working at it, getting better and better and better. Yeah, how's that going for you? Non-denominations. Wow, there's a good one. Those people don't commit to anything. Non-denomination. Are you serious? You can't even pick a team. Yeah. I couldn't work with these people either. It kind of frustrates me that they just can't see things my way, because if they could agree with my correct theology, then we could all work together in peace and harmony. But unfortunately, they see things differently. They decide to be wrong. It's their choice. And so it's very clear right here that out of the Church Universal, we have to either kick them out, but because we're not all under one polity, one church government, we really don't have the power to say, okay, Catholics are all excommunicated, you're not Christians anymore. So we just kind of have to, let them do their own thing and not work with them, because it says so right here. If the person sins against you, go and point out the fault when the two of you are alone. And, well, they tried that in about 1054 when the church split with the Orthodox and Catholics. It didn't work out so well. So, let them be. Let them be. We'll all just do our own thing, because it's very clear what Jesus is saying here. In fact, because they don't listen to us, we should treat them as a Gentile and a tax collector, because they have clearly sinned against us for not agreeing with us. That's what it looks like. Exactly what it looks like this is saying. And a lot of people use this as a text when they're talking about having reconciliation in the church, and indeed it is. It is. But I think more than just the simple idea that this text means that you should approach somebody quietly, don't call them out in public, don't embarrass them. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that you should go before some brothers and sisters if the person doesn't listen and try to have some reconciliation in group. And if that doesn't work, go to the whole church. Yes, it does mean that. But you know what? Jesus was much more witty than that. Much more. See, I think he's pulling a reversal here. Because when he's talking about the Gentiles and the tax collectors, remember how he treated the Gentiles and the tax collectors? He ate with them. He reached out to them. He loved them, despite they were different than everybody else. I think Jesus is trying to teach these people here that these sins that you have called sins because somebody didn't agree with you, perhaps, maybe you should gather 2 or 3 witnesses. And instead of going to that person and saying, yeah, see, they agree with me, you're totally wrong here. Maybe, just maybe, Jesus is saying, if you think somebody has wronged you, gather 2 or 3 witnesses, put it before them, and let them tell you if there's really a sin there, or maybe you're just a little bit too judgmental. And if you still don't get it, go before the whole church and say, this person didn't agree with me, what do y'all think? If y'all tell me I'm crazy, then perhaps I just might be wrong. And I think that is what Jesus is talking about ideologies, about opinions, about having our mindset so solidified that we can't see things for what they really are. It's like that video that Tax sent me that I shared with you guys on the E-Blast, right? The more intellect we build, the more we get into groupthink and get secluded into our own little clusters, the more right we think we are, the more concrete our thinking becomes, the more intellectual we become. That's fine. Being intellectual is wonderful. God gave us a brain, we should use it. But sometimes we become so stiff, so stuck in our ways that everybody else looks wrong. I was watching football with Weston yesterday. We went to Northwestern versus NIU game, and we're sitting up there in row 38 because I'm cheap. And as I'm watching the game, I see one of the NIU players, running back. He does a little counter. He goes off to the right side, and then he cuts back towards the left. And I'm thinking, dude, it's wide open. Why don't you just break it to the outside? The linebacker's blocked. The corner's nowhere near. The safety's way back over here. You've got a wide open field that just take off. And I'm thinking, that was dumb. That's back to the right, where all the people are. It was so clear, perfectly clear that he should have gone to the left, and he totally would have scored. But then I started thinking, down there, he doesn't have the same view that I have. He has a 320-pound tackle right here blocking his view. He has no idea what's happening on the other side of that guy. Couldn't see it. All he can see is what's happening right here. So when he saw this little hole between the right guard and the right tackle, and he wanted to try to get through there, that made sense to him because that is all that he could see. That, friends, is how we view the world. And that is why we have to go into groups of 2 or 3, sometimes before the whole church, and say, you know what? I can't help but only see it this way. I need your help to tell me I'm missing something. That is when things start to become clear, because there is the presence of God, the voice of reason, the voice of truth, to tell us if we're not seeing things the way that they really are. Because there's strength in numbers. Listen to this list. Medal of Honor, Legion of Merit, I have to write these down because no one else can remember them all. The Bronze Star, the Purple Heart, Prisoner of War Medal, American Campaign Medal, Asiatic Pacific Campaign Medal with Bronze Service Star, World War II Victory Medal, Army of Occupation Medal, National Defense Service Medal, Korean Service Medal with 2 Bronze Stars, Combat Infantryman Badge, Republic of Korea Presidential Unit Citation, United Nations Korea Medal, and Republic of Korea War Service Medal. That is an impressive list of somebody who was in Korean War, Korean conflict. Pretty darn impressive, I'd say. But see, he wasn't a soldier. He was a chaplain. He was a Catholic priest. Father Capon was from this small town in Kansas. In fact, the same church that his parents were married in, he grew up and became the pastor of that church. But for some silly reason, he felt that he needed to go and serve the troops in Korea because he knew it was a really dark, bad place and a lot of really rough things were happening, toying with the psyche of those soldiers, and he knew that they needed some support. They needed some love to get them through this. So he joins the army. He goes to Korea, and this battle where there's about 3,000 American troops that are coming up to the 38th parallel, and all of a sudden, they think they're in command, right? They think they're going to lead this charge. 20,000 Chinese troops here out of nowhere, and are completely decimating the small American platoon. Okay. People are running left and right, people are getting a chance to get out of there, but what does Father Capon do? He goes up where the fighting is and starts picking bodies up and dragging them off to the side. Eventually, when the Chinese have taken control of the entire situation, they take them all as prisoners of war, those who are left. It was an 87-mile march to prison camp number 5. And if you so much as stumble or show that you're getting tired on that march, you're the weakest link. So guess what's going to happen to you? That's right. Sergeant Miller was one of those guys. He had broken his leg. He collapsed. Chinese soldier comes up to him, takes his rifle, gets ready to pull the trigger. And Father Capon, with all his gall, pushes aside the Chinese soldier with his rifle and says, I will be responsible for him. He picks him up, and for part of that way, he literally carried him. The rest of the way, he supported him on this march. So Father Capon, with the rest of them, becomes a prisoner of war. He's in this camp, but he's always giving the soldiers hope. He would even go out and serve communion, Eucharist, on his Jeep. He would do Mass, putting everything on the hood of the Jeep, just to get the troops to have hope, to have dignity despite their really, really bad situation. They never had enough to eat, so he would sneak out and he would steal food, coffee, and tea from the Chinese troops, knowing that if he ever got caught, he was done for. But he'd do it anyway. And as he continued to do this, he was giving his own food away to the troops as well, and not really taking good care of himself. Because he was always encouraging the troops, the Chinese hated him so bad that in the winter they would make him stand outside naked in the snow, just to teach him a lesson for being so darn cheery. Eventually, he developed pneumonia. And as he was heading off to the infirmary, that's what the Chinese troops called it, but in the POW camp they called it the death house, because never once had anybody ever come back from that so-called hospital alive. And as he started to get taken out of there, the troops were crying. Father Capon says, don't cry. I'm going where I always wanted to go. And when I get there, I'm going to pray for you. The last thing that they saw as he's being marched out by those Chinese troops to his death sentence, he blessed the troops, Chinese guards who were taking him to death, and said, Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. You think Father Capon liked war? You think that's why he went to Korea? No. You think he agreed completely with all Protestants and Jews and everybody else who was fighting in that war? No. You see, he was a chaplain to everybody of every faith. In fact, at the end, when finally the fighting had stopped, when the treaty was signed to at least have a ceasefire, right? There was a cross that said, to Father Capon. It was hand-carved out of firewood with radio wire made into a crown of thorns, placed over the top. A Jewish soldier carved that cross. He transcended the lines of ideology, intellect, thought, things that should be or shouldn't be, and went beyond conformity. He went beyond bias and said, I will serve these people because there is strength in numbers. In such a situation, regardless of our theologies, we have to stick together. And he showed that. Today's Rally Day. Today, we need to start thinking about getting our mission ministry our team together. Regardless of who people are out there, regardless of who they believe, whether they're the people who need the help or the people who should be doing the helping, we need to reach out to those people. We need to embrace them. We need to work with them. So I encourage you, join us on this mission. If you want to find out what we're doing and how we're getting together and what groups we're working with, talk to myself or Elaine. Because the more people we have doing it, the less burden there is on everybody. Just like Father Capon taught, when you gather together in numbers and you give strength and you give love to one another, there, just as Jesus said, is manifest the presence of God. And regardless of what happens, when people stand together in solidarity out of genuine love for one another because they want to help one another, there people can say with confidence, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you are with me, and I have no fear, because there is strength in numbers.